Now then, the alleged cover-up at the health watchdog has highlighted the role of whistleblowers in exposing failings. This morning, the head of the healthcare information provider told Sky News that lives could potentially have been saved at the Morecambe Bay NHS Trust if his warnings had been acted on. The former bosses of the CQC deny claims of a cover-up, but where has it left the regulator and those who want to alert the authorities to issues that they uncover? Well, I'm joined now by Dr. Kim Holt, co-founder of Patients First and a consultant paediatrician who blew the whistle on Haringey's NHS Children's Services. Very good morning to you, Doctor. You must have been watching developments around the CQC and Morecambe Bay with great interest. And I wanted to start with this issue of those that do swim against the tide, those that do speak out, if I can call it, against the corporate culture. It is enormously difficult, as you found in your position.
Yeah, it's actually very difficult, and in fact one of our Patients First members, who's a midwife actually, has said that the system seems to be set up to suppress whistleblowing rather than the opposite, which is what the official line is. So I think we're in the process of trying to turn the supertanker around and change the culture so that actually it's really possible for people at the front line to speak out.
I mean, is that in the sense that they say one thing, the officials and the government ministers, they say one thing but really mean another? Yes, of course you're free to speak out, this is so important, lives could be saved, but behind the scenes, please don't rock the boat.
Exactly. I mean, our main concern at the moment, well, there's two things. There's the bullying that goes on the front line. So you might say something and immediately get put down, and that's going to put you off. So that can silence people right at the start. The second thing is gagging clauses, and we did welcome Holt's statement that gagging clauses would be banned. However, I think if you look at the fine print, what we're now hearing from the unions is that gagging clauses are banned only for those people who are recognised as whistleblowers. Now, if your employer doesn't recognise you as a whistleblower, they might still try and gag you.
Well, how do you get recognised as a whistleblower? How could that be enshrined? I mean, it's a general catch-all term, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, there's various ideas around. So people who are in the position, like I was in the position, of having information which I felt was in the public interest, but I couldn't get anyone within the organisation to listen to me, was to have somewhere to go external where I could log that concern, and at that point then there might be an independent
Just tell us a bit more about that, what you did to bypass the formal process and to bypass the kind of management ladder.
I didn't bypass it, I went through every single step of the way. I got up to board level by the end of 2007. Early in 2008 I went to my MP, who was very helpful. She listened to me, she asked questions. At the end of 2008 she came back to me, she then put me in touch with the CQC, who I made a disclosure to in November 2008. Nothing happened. I then went back to the CQC in early 2009. They said my concerns were an employment issue. That's a typical response. Yeah. Then I went to NHS London, who carried out a long protracted investigation. Eventually I just thought, come on, nobody's doing anything. Let's go, I basically decided that I'd just go to the media.
Well, I mean, exactly. Well, that is one of the traditional ways of bypassing it all. I mean, it has its dangers, though, doesn't it? Because, of course, you could be in breach of contract, the media could go nowhere with it, or it could turn out that your concerns were unfounded. Of course, they weren't in your case.
Yeah. I mean, the media aren't always interested in every single whistleblower's concerns, and not every whistleblower will feel strongly enough that they want to go to the media. It is quite a scary thing to do, but whistleblowing legislation does have that you can go to the media if no one else is listening to you. The reality is that currently within the NHS there isn't anywhere to go if you are an NHS whistleblower to get support. And we're quite pleased actually that this has come out about the CQC, because we've tried to go to the CQC and we got nowhere. And in fact I got a message back from the CQC that whistleblowers were not in their remit, that was not, and they don't look at individual cases. So
that's a very important point.
Yeah.
I mean, the other thing is about the number of potential whistleblowers there are out there. Stories that the media wouldn't cover, but they're important nonetheless.
Exactly.
To the patient experience. You look inside a hospital and somebody says, well, look, we're not cleaning it properly, having huge implications then for hospital-acquired infections. But then if you speak up, you're just not a team player, but you don't have an external conduit.
Exactly. What it's about is about changing the culture within each of the teams, departments, organisations. And what we've drawn up a list of 34 recommendations that we think would start to make a difference to the culture. Now, it's very encouraging that the current Health Secretary is saying people who've lied, covered up, deleted reports, etc. need to be held to account. Now, if they did that within NHS trusts, there are examples of reports that have been hidden, reports that have been deleted, suppressed, etc. If those people were held to account, that would start to shake things up a bit, because at the moment, senior executives can delete reports, nothing happens, and they think, oh yes.
And it's what you're saying about the Care Quality Commission. That's very interesting. I didn't know that. It says it's not really within its remit at the moment. I mean, it has to become so, because that has to become, does it not, the place where people know they can go. They know that their immediate manager may take it as a personal criticism, and the manager may not want to follow it any further because of the potential implications for their position. So you have to have an official place where you can go, don't you?
Yeah, you've got to have an official place. I mean, what we're actually pushing for now is a truth and reconciliation exercise, because clearly we've got ourselves into a situation which is not good. We've got whistleblowers coming out of the woodwork, left, right and centre, and there's pockets within the NHS which are very dysfunctional.
How many have been in contact with you then? I mean,
a lot.
Dozens? Scores?
Well, I can't individually support every single person who gets in contact with me, so we've got a widening network now. We have quite an active group in Scotland, for example. I know they're under a different health system, but Scotland, Northern Ireland, England, 2 or 3 a week, different people telling me different things. So surgeons, doctors, junior doctors, nurses, there's a lot of people out there, and they're the people brave enough to come to someone like us, because even that is scary, because they don't know, they think, because especially we're in touch with the media, or can we trust those people? Will they go straight to the media? We're building up people's trust, and so we can speak on behalf of a lot of these people, and we're collecting evidence. So we've got a lot of evidence that we could put in front of the current Secretary of State and say, look, this is actually what is happening in different parts of the NHS.
Well, do you get a sense that he wants to hear it?
Not yet, but we very much welcome a meeting with him. That would be excellent.
And if we get this from the Francis, Andy Burnham was mentioned, it's from the Francis report into mid-staffs, this recommendation for a duty of candour within employees, presumably then you'd get an awful lot more people coming to you, or there would be a more formal procedure for them to follow.
They'd be more confident, I think. There's a lot of concern about the duty of candour, that it'll be the people at the bottom who will get hammered. But having spoken to Robert Francis, my understanding is that this is more about the organisation having a legal duty of candour. And this is where we've got the issue at the moment, is that doctors may well tell the truth, as I did, but the organisation decides they don't really want that truth out there. So they aren't being held to account at the moment, and that's the bit that's got to change.
Interesting stuff. Thank you very much indeed, Dr. Kim Holt there. And you are watching the Murnaghan programme here on Sky News. Coming up, the latest on the flight of fugitive spy Edward Snowden from Hong Kong, apparently to